Welcome to Fred's 10-minute marketing course.
Today we are discussing Becoming a Resourceful Marketing Leader, written by Fred James.
You know, when I first started out on the front lines of marketing, I had this massive assumption about what the job actually was.
Oh, I think we all did.
Right. I just thought it was entirely about those flashy ad campaigns,
Mhm.
like orchestrating the perfect viral social media posts and just relying on boundless, untamed creativity to win the day.
The whole Don Draper fantasy, basically.
Exactly. I picture these endless brainstorming sessions where someone suddenly pitches a million-dollar idea and boom, you're a marketing genius.
It's a very romantic notion of the industry.
It really is. And we put together this deep dive specifically for you, especially if you're a beginner or an aspiring manager trying to figure out how to stand out.
To really shift your mindset from purely executing tasks to seeing the entire strategic chessboard.
Right, because Fred James dismantles that whole creativity illusion right out of the gate.
He really does. He introduces a major paradigm shift for anyone wanting to level up.
He argues that before any of that brilliant creativity can even happen, there is this fundamental, highly critical skill that separates the true marketing masters from the mere executors.
And that skill is simply taking inventory.
Inventory.
Yes,
Yeah.
the rigorous process of resource assessment and stock taking.
I have to be honest, though. When I first hear the word inventory applied to marketing, I immediately picture, like, a convenience store clerk.
Ah, with the little handheld scanner.
Yeah, just standing in a fluorescent lit aisle, beeping barcodes on dusty shelves of snacks. It sounds, well, a little tedious.
It does sound dry when you put it that way.
How does that translate to the dynamic, fast-paced world of marketing we're actually working in?
Well, it's a completely fair comparison, but Fred actually borrows this concept from traditional inventory management to emphasize something much more powerful.
Which is?
Mastering your business performance to drive real, tangible improvement. It is definitely not about counting physical boxes in a warehouse or tallying up promotional pens. It's about clearing the fog around what weapons or resources your marketing team actually possesses at any given moment.
So it's about figuring out your arsenal before you go to battle.
Exactly.
But how is that different from what we learn in business school? Like doing a basic SWOT analysis, where you map out strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
SWOT is great in theory, but Fred James stresses that taking inventory is a highly practical, real-world survival skill.
Because a SWOT analysis usually just ends up as a really nice slide in a quarterly presentation.
And it gets completely forgotten by Tuesday. It's static. Taking inventory, on the other hand, is an active, ongoing operational reality.
Okay, I see.
Think about a senior manager. They might not be the ones personally logging in to run the daily ad buys on social platforms anymore.
Sure.
But they absolutely must be able to read the performance data, understand the competitive landscape, and make hard strategic decisions based strictly on what resources they have.
And probably more importantly, what resources they lack.
Exactly. If you are flying blind on your resources, you can't possibly plan 5 moves ahead.
That makes a lot of sense. If you don't know what you have, you're just guessing. You're throwing budget at a wall and hoping it sticks.
Which is a terrible strategy.
So how do we actually execute this? Fred James breaks this down into 3 distinct perspectives to help demystify the process for us. Let's get into the first one, the accounting view.
The accounting view is really the foundation of this entire framework. It asks you to look at your marketing landscape strictly in terms of assets versus liabilities.
Like borrowing the double entry system from finance.
Precisely,
Right.
where every piece of value is weighed against a potential deficit.
Right, and when we talk about marketing assets, we're talking about the undeniable strengths you can leverage.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. This includes your overall brand value, moving founder stories that connect emotionally with your audience, maybe past industry awards you've won.
Secured brand ambassadors or influencers on your roster.
Yes. And your human resources, meaning the actual talent and skills on your team. Plus your available budget, and of course, your loyal superfans.
Let's ground that in a real-world example from consumer electronics to really show what an asset looks like in practice.
Okay, lay it on me.
Look at a massive company like Apple. Their most powerful marketing asset is arguably that incredibly loyal user base.
Oh, totally. These are people who will line up around the block for a new release before they even know the full specs of the device.
Exactly. Or think about the classic tech founder's garage story.
Right. The origin myth.
That is a massive marketing asset because it humanizes a giant faceless corporation and builds immediate visceral trust with the consumer. You cannot just buy that kind of history.
You have to inventory it, recognize its value, and deploy it strategically.
Spot on. But accounting is a two-way street.
You can't just list all those shiny assets and call it a day, right?
You absolutely cannot. Which brings us to the marketing liabilities, or, as it's often felt by the team, the dark history.
The skeletons in the marketing closet. The stuff nobody wants to bring up in the Monday morning all-hands meeting.
Skeletons is a very good word for it. Liabilities are the failed product launches, the major customer complaint incidents, or that time you suffered some really negative social media PR that trended for all the wrong reasons.
A good manager has to stare those in the face.
Because if you pretend they don't exist, they will sink your next campaign.
Man, looking at past campaigns, I can think of a major tech example from a few years ago that fits this perfectly.
Which one?
Remember that flagship smartphone that had a heavily publicized battery defect?
Oh, where the devices were literally catching fire on airplanes.
Yes. Or consider a massive internet platform facing a historic data privacy scandal. Those are textbook liabilities.
They absolutely are.
If you're a marketer coming into those companies, identifying those liabilities helps you know exactly which landmines to avoid. You can't just launch a cheerful, tone-deaf campaign about powering your whole life if your battery historically, exploded.
No, you definitely cannot. You have to actively acknowledge the liability to navigate around it.
And that's the trap a lot of junior marketers fall into. They want to focus entirely on the positive.
But if you ignore the liability, your creative, brilliant campaign will walk right into a public relations nightmare. You have to audit the bad just as rigorously as the good.
Okay, so once you have your assets and liabilities clearly mapped out on your ledger, Fred James moves us to the second perspective, the factory view.
Which is a fantastic mental model.
It is super visual, which really helps me wrap my head around it.
The factory view asks you to look at the marketing department as a literal manufacturing plant, an ongoing production line with conveyor belts, assembly stations, and storage rooms.
Okay, so in this factory, your raw materials are the assets we just talked about.
Right.
The budget, the talented copywriters, the brand reputation. And then you have your work in progress.
Which represents all the potential energy.
Like the creative brainstorming sessions currently happening, the campaign proposals sitting on a desk under review, or the major event campaigns that are still deeply in the planning phase. It's all the stuff that hasn't been released to the public yet.
Correct. And as they move down the production line, those raw materials and works in progress eventually become finished goods.
So in our marketing factory, finished goods are what?
They're your mature, stable product lines, your fully operational and trained teams, and your ready-to-deploy budgets. These are the things actively generating value and revenue in the market right now.
Got it.
But here is where the factory view gets truly critical and where a frankly shocking number of leaders fail. You have to account for the inventory, or what Fred James calls the stockpile.
The stockpile. This sounds ominous, like a dusty warehouse at the back of the factory where things go to be forgotten.
It is often exactly that. The stockpile consists of the mediocre projects, the campaigns that are a pity to discard but aren't really moving the needle.
Just taking up space?
Just sitting there on the conveyor belt, draining resources, taking up precious mental bandwidth from your team, and consuming a chunk of your budget month after month.
Ah, the zombie projects. I have definitely worked on a few of those.
Haven't we all?
But wait, how do you actually tell the difference between a zombie project in the stockpile and a slow-burning strategy that just needs a little more time and investment to succeed? That feels like a really tough call to make when you're in the thick of it.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It comes down to hard metrics and honest assessment. Let's use a computer or consumer products example to illustrate.
Okay.
Imagine an outdated software tool your company still supports, or a smart home device that barely sells anymore but still requires a dedicated portion of your monthly marketing spend just to keep the servers running and the customer service active.
Right.
A slow burn project has leading indicators. Maybe sales are low, but engagement is growing, or customer acquisition cost is steadily dropping.
So there's momentum.
Exactly. A stockpile zombie has flatlined. It is surviving entirely on life support. A resourceful leader looks at that stockpile and realizes they have to make a tough call.
You either innovate and rescue it by injecting new raw materials,
or you aggressively cut your losses so you can reallocate those resources to a more profitable work in progress.
That is a harsh reality, but a necessary one. It's so incredibly easy to just keep doing what you did last quarter because it feels safe.
Nobody wants to be the one to kill a project that someone else poured their heart into.
But if it's just sitting in the stockpile gathering dust, it's actively hurting your overall momentum. You're tying up raw materials that could be used for your next big win.
Which flows really nicely into Fred James' third perspective, the R&D view.
The research and development view.
Yes, this is where you elevate your thinking to act entirely like a product manager, but specifically for your marketing assets. You stop thinking of marketing as just a service department and start treating it as an innovation hub.
So you start treating your marketing channels as products themselves. Whether it's a social media account with 50,000 followers or a B2C email newsletter. You must rigidly define its specs, its unique features, and its competitive advantages.
You have to ask, what is the actual value proposition of your newsletter compared to a competitor's? Why should a consumer open it?
Right, and as any good product manager knows, a product needs a defined future. It needs a development plan or a roadmap.
You can't just blast out emails every Tuesday and hope for the best. You need to map out what that B2C newsletter will look like in 6 months, in 1 year, and in 3 years.
Wow, 3 years out.
Will it incorporate video? Will it segment into different demographic tiers? More importantly, that roadmap must align perfectly with the company's broader tech or consumer product launches.
Because if the company is releasing a revolutionary new consumer electronics line in Q3, your marketing assets need to be fully developed and primed to support that launch by Q2. You can't build the audience the day the product drops.
That is a phenomenal way to put it. You are building the roads so the delivery trucks can actually arrive on time. If your R&D roadmap for your marketing channels is out of sync with the product roadmap, you're going to have a massive launch with nobody listening.
It's all completely interconnected. You need the accounting view to know what you can afford to build, the factory view to actually build it without wasting parts, and the R&D view to know where the roads are going.
And this brings us to the ultimate synthesis of Fred James' philosophy. When you combine these three perspectives, the accounting view, the factory view, and the R&D view, you create a strategic matrix.
The strategic matrix.
This is where the magic happens.
Okay, I love a good framework, but let's actually unpack that for you, the listener. Let's build one right now so it doesn't just sound like corporate jargon. Walk me through it.
Imagine a grid. Marketing strategy is not just sitting in a room throwing creative ideas at a wall to see what sticks. Strategy is looking at this complex matrix of your assets, your production line, and your roadmaps, and deciding exactly which boxes to fill.
Because you have finite resources.
You only have so much budget, so many hours in the week, and so much talent on your team.
So the matrix forces you to make a choice.
Precisely. It is all about allocation. Let's say you're a mid-sized tech brand. Do we pour our remaining quarterly budget into maximizing a finished good?
Like a highly successful ad campaign that's already generating steady revenue.
Yes. Or do we pivot our raw materials, like our best copywriters, to develop a brand new work in progress specifically targeted at a high-value B2B client segment that we haven't cracked yet?
Oh, I see. So if you look at the matrix and see that your B2B outreach is just a concept in the R&D phase, but your B2C product line is a finished good generating cash, the matrix tells you where you can afford to take risks.
Exactly.
The prioritization itself is the strategy.
The prioritization of these daily, weekly, and monthly resource decisions is the strategy in action, and it relies entirely on how accurate and comprehensive your initial inventory was. Let's go back to the accounting view for a second. If you misjudged your assets, or worse, ignored a major liability, your entire matrix is compromised.
You might confidently allocate budget to scale up a campaign, not realizing the core messaging triggers a liability you swept under the rug last year.
And your strategy will fail no matter how clever or award-winning the ad copy is.
This is incredibly illuminating, but I can almost hear some of you out there thinking, okay, this matrix sounds brilliant. I get the factory, I get the R&D, but I'm just a junior specialist.
Right?
I write the social media captions and schedule the posts. This sounds like boss-level stuff that happens way above my pay grade. Why do I need to care about a strategic matrix?
It is a very common reaction when people first encounter this level of operational thinking. But dismissing it as boss-level stuff is a dangerous trap to fall into if you want to advance your career.
Exactly. Because Fred James offers some truly empowering advice here that totally flips that assumption. This framework is not just for executive management sitting in a boardroom.
No, not at all.
A frontline marketer can, and absolutely should, use this exact same framework to inventory their own daily tasks and individual projects.
It is the absolute essence of upward management. Think about how most junior employees pitch an idea. They walk into their manager's office with unbridled enthusiasm, a cool mock-up, and say, "We should do this."
Which is nice, but it often gets rejected because the manager's looking at their own matrix and doesn't see how it fits.
Or you can walk in using this structured logic.
Yes, imagine how different this sounds. You sit down with your manager and clearly articulate, here is what I have, these are my raw materials and assets, maybe a few hours of free time this week, and a trending topic I spotted.
Right.
Here is what I need from you. A small budget and approval to move this work in progress forward. And here is what I aim to achieve. Turning this into a finished good that hits our Q3 roadmap goals.
When you structure your pitches that way, your proposals become practically bulletproof. It shows management that you aren't just a creative executor throwing ideas around.
You're a strategic thinker who deeply understands the realities of resource allocation. You're speaking their language.
You're showing them that you can be trusted with the keys to the factory.
That's exactly it. It builds that big picture thinking incredibly early in your career. The digital marketing landscape changes every single day. Platforms rise and fall.
And even if a future manager completely forgets the granular details of today's specific ad targeting algorithms or which social media trend is popping off this week, this fundamental ability to inventory, assess, and lay out resources is the true key to long-term career growth.
It makes you adaptable. It makes you indispensable.
Because tools change, but the need for clear resource management never goes away.
Man, looking at my own desk, I definitely have a few zombie projects I've been too scared to kill. I need to do this inventory myself today. I've got a couple of B2B outreach drafts that are definitely just gathering dust in the stockpile.
We all do. The first step is just turning on the lights in the factory and being honest about what you see on the conveyor belt.
So to wrap up our discussion today, we want to leave you with a final reflection to mull over. Next time you log into work, before you start answering emails, checking notifications, or brainstorming new flashy ideas, take a step back.
Make 15 minutes.
Ask yourself, if your current marketing projects were a physical factory, what is actively moving down your assembly line right now, and what is just gathering dust in the stockpile, draining your energy?
It is a tough mirror to look into, but it's the only way to clear the path for the work that actually matters.
I enthusiastically encourage you to practice this resource inventory today. Start small. Just look at your own desk, your own top 3 projects. Classify them. Are they raw materials, works in progress, finished goods, or stockpile? I promise you, your future manager self will absolutely thank you for building this habit early.
We hope you enjoyed this discussion of Fred James Insights.
Thank you for listening. If you have any thoughts on today's episode or marketing topics, feel free to leave a comment below the video. This is Fred's 10-minute marketing courses. See you next time.